The massive ships of the Zephyrian Galactic Dominion moved through space like giant metal mountains. Their dark hulls blocked out the stars as they traveled toward the small yellow sun called Sol. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the view screen with satisfaction. His three eyes glowed with pride as he watched his fleet move into position. Kethvar had conquered 23 different alien races in his long career. He had destroyed countless planets and made entire star systems bow before the Dominion's power. His fleet controlled 847 star systems across the galaxy. No one had ever stood against him and survived. Today would be just another easy victory. The planet called Earth hung in space like a blue and green jewel. Kethvar could see the small ships of the human fleet waiting near their homeworld. He counted only 12 vessels. His own fleet had over 300 ships, each one bigger and stronger than anything the humans possessed. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, "we are in position. The human fleet appears to be waiting for us." Kethvar's mandibles clicked together in what his species considered laughter. "Of course they are waiting. They know they cannot run from us. Open a communication channel to their planet." The view screen changed to show the bridge of what appeared to be the human flagship. A woman in a blue uniform sat in the captain's chair. She had short gray hair and calm dark eyes. Her name tag read, Admiral S. Chen. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Kethvar announced in his most commanding voice. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Galactic Dominion. Your species has been chosen to join our empire. You will surrender all military ships immediately. Your planet will provide resources and workers to the Dominion. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world." The human admiral listened quietly. When Kethvar finished speaking, she smiled slightly. It was not the expression of fear he expected to see. "Thank you for your generous offer, Admiral," she said in a polite voice. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We appreciate you taking the time to visit our system." Kethvar was confused. This was not how conquered species usually responded. "You did not answer my demand, human. Will you surrender?" Admiral Chen tilted her head slightly. "I'm afraid we'll have to decline your offer. We're quite happy managing our own affairs. However, I would like to suggest that you might want to consider withdrawing your fleet from our system. We wouldn't want any unfortunate misunderstandings to occur." The alien admiral's three eyes widened in shock. In 200 years of conquest, no species had ever refused a Dominion ultimatum. More importantly, no species had ever suggested that the mighty Dominion fleet should retreat. "You refuse?" Kethvar's voice rose in anger. "Do you not understand the power you face? My fleet could destroy your entire planet." "Oh, I'm sure you have very impressive weapons," Admiral Chen replied. Her voice remained calm and friendly. "But really, Admiral, we do have other things to attend to today. If you could just move your ships away from our trade routes, that would be wonderful." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers stared at the view screen with the same confusion he felt. The human was talking to them as if they were lost tourists asking for directions, not the most feared military force in the galaxy. "Scan their ships," he ordered his tactical officer. "I want to know what weapons they have." The tactical officer worked at his console for several minutes. "Admiral, their ships appear to be primitive. I detect kinetic weapons, basic energy shields, and propulsion systems that are at least 50 years behind our technology. Their largest ship is only 2 kilometers long. Our smallest cruiser could destroy it easily." Kethvar felt his confidence returning. The humans were simply too stupid to understand the danger they faced. "How many crew members on their ships?" "Approximately 2,000 humans total across all 12 vessels, sir." 2,000? Kethvar looked at his own fleet. He had over 50,000 warriors ready for battle. They are either very brave or very foolish. On the view screen, Admiral Chen appeared to be talking quietly with her officers. Kethvar could hear some of their conversation. They seemed to be discussing lunch plans and shift schedules. One officer mentioned that his daughter had a soccer game that evening, and he hoped to be home in time to watch it. "Admiral," one of Chen's officers said, "should we move to defensive positions?" No hurry, Lieutenant, Chen replied. Let our guests finish their scans first. It would be rude to interrupt. Kethvar's tactical officer finished his analysis. Sir, I recommend we destroy one of their ships as a demonstration. It should convince them to surrender immediately, the alien admiral nodded. Target their smallest vessel. Minimum power. We want them to see what happens when they defy the Dominion. Admiral Chen, Kethvar said, returning his attention to the view screen. You have one final chance to surrender. If you refuse, I will destroy one of your ships. The human admiral sighed softly. Admiral, I really think you should reconsider. But if you insist on this course of action, please try not to damage our navigation buoys. We just had them repaired last month. Kethvar ended the communication and turned to his weapons officer. Target the small frigate on their left flank. Fire one plasma torpedo. Yes, Admiral. As the Dominion ship prepared to fire, Admiral Chen spoke quietly to her crew. All ships, prepare for contact. Remember, we want to keep this peaceful if possible. Admiral, her tactical officer said, they're targeting the Defiant. Captain Morrison will handle it, Chen replied calmly. He always does. Kethvar watched the torpedo streak toward the human ship. The small vessel made no attempt to dodge or defend itself. The crew didn't even seem concerned. Impact in 5 seconds, reported his weapons officer. Kethvar smiled. Soon the humans would understand the true power of the Dominion. Then they would beg for mercy like all the others had before them. The plasma torpedo struck the human frigate directly. A brilliant flash of light filled the view screen. When it faded, Kethvar expected to see debris and wreckage. Instead, the small human ship floated exactly where it had been before. There was no damage visible on its hull. No signs of impact at all. On the communication channel, a new voice spoke. Admiral Kethvar, this is Captain Morrison of the UES Defiant. Thank you for the light show. My crew enjoyed the fireworks. However, if you're quite finished, we do have patrol duties to complete. Kethvar stared at the undamaged ship in complete disbelief. His most powerful weapon had struck the vessel directly. There should be nothing left but atoms scattered in space. Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, I did try to warn you. Now, shall we discuss this like civilized beings, or do you need a moment to process what just happened? Admiral Kethvar stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the small human ship that should have been destroyed. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to understand what had happened. The plasma torpedo that hit the human vessel carried enough energy to melt a small asteroid. Yet the ship showed no damage at all. Run another scan on that frigate, he ordered his tactical officer. There must be some kind of advanced shielding technology we missed. The tactical officer's fingers moved quickly across his console. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion. Admiral, the scans show the same results as before. Basic energy shields, primitive weapon systems, and hull materials that appear to be simple metal alloys. That's impossible, Kethvar growled. No basic shield system could stop one of our plasma torpedoes. His second-in-command, Commander Zexatal, approached the Admiral's chair. Sir, perhaps their technology is more advanced than it appears. Some species hide their true capabilities. Kethvar considered this possibility. It was true that some civilizations used deception in warfare. But the humans seemed genuinely unconcerned, not like they were hiding anything. They acted as if being attacked by the Dominion's most powerful weapons was barely worth their attention. Open a channel to the human flagship, he ordered. Admiral Chen appeared on the view screen again. She was sipping from a small cup and seemed completely relaxed. Behind her, human officers went about their duties as if nothing unusual had happened. Admiral Chen, Kethvar began. Your ship has some kind of advanced defense system. What technology are you using? The human admiral set down her cup and smiled. Technology? Oh. You mean our shields? They're nothing special, really. Standard Terran defense fleet equipment. We've been using the same basic design for about 30 years now. 30 years? Kethvar's voice rose in disbelief. Your basic shields can stop weapons that have destroyed entire fleets. Well, I suppose it depends on what you're comparing them to, Chen replied. Lieutenant Hayes, what's our shield strength at? A young human officer checked his display. Shields are at full strength, Admiral. The impact didn't even register as a threat level event. Admiral Chen nodded. As you can see, Admiral Kethvar, your weapons didn't really stress our defensive systems. Perhaps you should consider a different approach to this situation. 14. Kethvar ended the communication and turned to his fleet commanders. All ships, begin detailed scans of the human vessels. I want to know everything about their technology. For the next hour, the Dominion fleet focused every sensor they had on the 12 human ships. The results were the same each time. According to their instruments, the human technology was decades behind Dominion standards. Their ships were smaller, their weapons were weaker, and their power sources were primitive. Yet one of those primitive ships had just survived a direct hit from their most powerful torpedo. Admiral, Commander Zextal said quietly, what if our sensors are wrong? What if these humans have technology so advanced that we can't even detect it properly? Kethvar considered this possibility. It would explain why their scans showed primitive technology, while the ships demonstrated impossible defensive capabilities. You may be correct, Commander, but if that's true, why do they only have 12 ships? A civilization with such advanced technology should rule the galaxy. Perhaps they are peaceful, suggested the tactical officer. Some species prefer isolation to conquest. No. Kethvar shook his head. Peaceful species don't develop weapons technology, and they certainly don't survive encounters with aggressive civilizations like ours. On the human flagship, Admiral Chen was having her own discussion with her officers. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, her tactical officer, reviewed the data from the Dominion attack. Admiral, their plasma torpedo was actually quite impressive, he reported. Much more powerful than the weapons we encountered from the last 3 civilizations that visited us. The Altarian Empire, the Cosmic Federation, and the Star-Lords Union? Chen asked. Yes. I remember them. What was the power differential? We have Li Vizah. Cosmic Federation. Chen Askli Raider. Tom comment. Chen Askli Raider. Chen Askli Raider. Chen Askli Raider. Chen Askli Raider. The Dominion torpedo was about 40% more powerful than anything the Star-Lords used, Rodriguez answered. Still well within our defensive parameters, but it shows they've made some technological progress. Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. Any estimate on their overall tech level? Based on their ship designs and weapon signatures, I'd say they're about where the Galactic Republic was when we first met them 15 years ago. Maybe slightly more advanced in some areas. 15 years, Chen mused. That seems about right. Lieutenant Hayes, pull up the diplomatic protocols for first contact with aggressive civilizations. Level 3 procedures should be sufficient. Yes, Admiral. Should I contact Earth Command? Not necessary for a Level 3, Chen replied. We can handle this ourselves. Just make sure to file the usual reports. Meanwhile, on the Dominion flagship, Admiral Kethvar was growing more frustrated. His officers had run every scan possible, but the results never changed. The human ships appeared primitive, yet they had defensive capabilities that defied explanation. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving transmissions between the human ships. Should we listen to their tactical discussions? Yes, immediately, Kethvar ordered. Maybe we can learn something about their real capabilities. The bridge speakers filled with human voices as the communication channels opened. Instead of urgent military discussions, the Dominion crew heard casual conversations. Hey Morrison, how's your wife doing after her surgery? One, human captain asked. Much better, thanks for asking, Captain Morrison replied. She should be back to work next week. That's great news. By the way, did you see the game last night? I can't believe they lost in overtime. I know, right? My son was so upset he went to bed early. Kethvar listened in growing confusion. These humans were discussing their personal lives while facing the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. It was as if they didn't consider the Dominion a threat at all. "Admiral," one human voice said, "the aliens seem to be scanning us pretty thoroughly. Should we be concerned?" "Not really," Admiral Chen's voice replied. "Standard first contact behavior. They're probably trying to figure out our technology levels. Let them scan all they want. It keeps them busy while we decide how to handle this situation." "Are we going to have to do a demonstration?" another voice asked. "I hope not," Chen answered. "But these Dominion types seem pretty stubborn. They might need to see something more convincing before they're ready to talk seriously." Keth Var turned to his second-in-command. "Commander, they're talking about a demonstration. What kind of demonstration could they possibly give us?" "Commander." Keth Var turned to his second-in-command. "I don't know, sir. But given what we've seen so far, perhaps we should be prepared for anything." The alien admiral stared at the human fleet floating calmly in space. 12 small ships faced his armada of 300 massive warships, and the humans seemed completely unconcerned. Either they were the bravest species he had ever encountered, or they knew something he didn't. "Prepare the entire fleet for battle," he ordered. "If one torpedo couldn't penetrate their shields, we'll use 50 torpedoes. No defense system can withstand the combined firepower of the Dominion fleet." "Sir," Commander Zextal said carefully, "are you certain that's wise? If their defensive technology is as advanced as it appears, we might be making a serious mistake." Keth Var's eyes blazed with anger and frustration. "Commander, I have conquered 23 species and 847 star systems. No primitive human fleet is going to make me look like a fool. All ships, target the human vessels. Prepare for full bombardment." As the Dominion fleet moved into attack formation, Admiral Chen watched from her bridge with a sad expression. "Admiral," Lieutenant Hayes said, "they're charging weapons across their entire fleet." "I see that." Chen replied with a sigh. "I was hoping they'd be more reasonable." "Well, I suppose we'll have to show them why diplomacy is usually the better option." Admiral Kethvar stood at the center of his bridge, watching as his massive fleet prepared for the largest bombardment in Dominion history. 300 warships charged their weapons systems. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire planets, not just a small group of primitive vessels. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his tactical officer announced. "Target all human ships simultaneously," Kethvar ordered. "I want overwhelming firepower focused on each vessel. If one torpedo couldn't penetrate their shields, then 100 torpedoes will." His weapons officer nodded. "Firing solutions locked. All ships standing by." Kethvar opened a communication channel to the human fleet one final time. "Admiral Chen, this is your last opportunity to surrender. My entire fleet is targeting your ships. You cannot survive what is coming." On the view screen, Admiral Chen looked disappointed rather than afraid. She shook her head slowly. "Admiral Kethvar, I really wish you would reconsider this course of action. Violence is so unnecessary when we could simply talk." "Your talking time is over, human," Kethvar replied coldly. "All ships, fire at will." Space around the human fleet exploded into brilliant light. Hundreds of plasma torpedoes, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the 12 small ships. The combined attack created an artificial star, as weapons designed to crack planets concentrated their power on targets no bigger than city blocks. The bombardment continued for 30 seconds. Every weapon in the Dominion fleet fired continuously, pouring more destructive energy into that small area of space than most star systems saw in their entire existence. The light was so bright that the view screens automatically dimmed to protect the alien crew's vision. When the weapons finally stopped firing, the bridge fell silent. Kethvar waited for the sensors to clear the energy interference and show him the debris field where the human ships had been destroyed. The interference faded. The view screens cleared. All 12 human ships floated exactly where they had been before the attack began. Not one showed any sign of damage. Their hulls were intact, their formation unchanged, and their crews apparently unharmed. "Impossible," Kethvar whispered. On the communication channel, Captain Morrison's voice came through clearly. "Well, that was quite a light show. My crew wants to thank you for the entertainment, Admiral Kethvar. We haven't seen fireworks that impressive since the 4th of July celebration last month." Another human voice joined the channel. "Morrison, did you see how pretty those purple energy beams were? My daughter would love those colors for her birthday party decorations." Admiral Chen's voice cut through the casual chatter. "Gentlemen, let's not be rude to our guests. I'm sure they put a lot of effort into that display." Her tone was gently scolding, as if she were talking to children who had made too much noise. Kethvar stared at the unchanged human fleet in complete shock. His greatest weapons had failed completely. The humans weren't just undamaged. They were discussing the attack as if it had been a fireworks show for their amusement. "Run full sensor sweeps," he ordered in a shaking voice. "Check for any signs of damage, energy displacement, anything that shows our weapons had some effect." His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. After several long minutes, he looked up with confusion and fear. "Admiral, our sensors show no damage to any human vessel. No energy absorption. No shield displacement. Nothing. It's as if our weapons never reached their targets." Commander Zexatal approached the Admiral's chair slowly. "Sir, what if their defensive technology isn't just advanced? What if it's so far beyond our understanding that we can't even comprehend how it works?" Before Kethvar could answer, Admiral Chen's voice filled the bridge again. "Admiral Kethvar, may I have a moment of your time? I think we need to have a serious conversation." The alien admiral found his voice after several attempts. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you survive that bombardment?" "Our shields absorbed the impact," Chen replied matter-of-factly. "It was quite impressive, actually. Your weapons are much more advanced than the last few civilizations that visited us. You should be proud of your technological achievements." "The last few civilizations?" Kethvar repeated slowly. "How many species have attacked your system?" Admiral Chen paused to think. "Let me see. This year alone, we've had visits from the Altarian Empire, the Cosmic Federation, the Star-Lords Union, and now your Dominion. Last year was busier. I think we had 7 different groups stop by with conquest plans." The bridge of the Dominion flagship fell silent. Every alien officer stared at the view screen in growing horror as the implications became clear. "What happened to those other civilizations?" Commander Zextal asked in a quiet voice. "Oh, they're all doing quite well," Chen replied cheerfully. "Most of them are now part of our extended neighborhood. We have excellent trade agreements with several of them. The Altarian Empire makes wonderful artwork, and the Cosmic Federation grows the most amazing fruits in their hydroponic gardens." "Trade agreements?" Kethvar felt dizzy. "You defeated them all?" "Defeated is such a harsh word," Admiral Chen said thoughtfully. "We prefer to think of it as helping them understand the benefits of peaceful cooperation. Violence really isn't necessary when everyone can benefit from friendship and trade." On the human flagship, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez leaned over to Admiral Chen. "Admiral, should I prepare for a demonstration?" They seem to be having trouble processing the situation. Chen nodded sadly. "I'm afraid so, Lieutenant. They appear to be the stubborn type. What do you recommend?" "Something simple and non-threatening," Rodriguez replied. "Maybe move one of their ships? Just enough to show them we can do more than defend ourselves." "Good thinking." "Captain Morrison, are you available for a small demonstration?" Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "Always happy to help, Admiral. What did you have in mind?" "This SAR. What did you have in mind? Could you gently move their largest ship out of our patrol route? It's blocking the shipping lane to Alpha Centauri." "No problem. Give me just a moment." Admiral Kethvar watched in growing panic as the smallest human ship, the frigate that had survived his first torpedo attack, began moving toward his flagship. The tiny vessel was less than 1/10 the size of his massive dreadnought, yet it approached with casual confidence. "All ships, target that frigate," he ordered desperately. "Destroy it before it reaches us." "Admiral," his weapons officer reported. All weapons are still recharging from the bombardment. We won't be ready to fire for another 10 minutes. The human frigate came alongside Kethvar's flagship and extended what appeared to be a tractor beam. But instead of the weak gripping force that Dominion tractor beams produced, this beam effortlessly took hold of the 15-kilometer-long dreadnought. "What are they doing?" Kethvar demanded. His answer came as his massive ship began moving sideways through space. The human frigate was pushing his flagship aside as easily as a child might move a toy boat in a bathtub. The motion was gentle but irresistible, demonstrating a level of power that made the Dominion's greatest weapons look like firecrackers. "Admiral," Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication channel. "Sorry about the rough handling. Your ship is quite beautiful, and I didn't want to damage the paint job." As Kethvar's flagship came to rest in its new position, Admiral Chen's voice returned. "Thank you, Captain Morrison. Now then, Admiral Kethvar, I believe it's time we discuss the situation like reasonable beings. As I mentioned before, we really do have a schedule to keep." Kethvar looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he was beginning to understand what it felt like to be completely outmatched. "What do you want from us?" he asked in a voice barely above a whisper. "Nothing at all," Admiral Chen replied gently. "We simply want you to understand that threatening Earth is not in your best interests. Now, would you like to discuss peaceful alternatives, or do you need a more convincing demonstration of why diplomacy is usually the better choice?" Admiral Kethvar stared at the small human frigate that had just moved his massive flagship like it was made of paper. His ship weighed millions of tons and was powered by 3 fusion reactors. Yet the tiny human vessel had pushed it aside without any visible effort. "Admiral," Commander Zextal whispered, "we need to retreat. These humans are not what they appear to be." Kethvar's pride warred with his growing fear. He had never retreated from any battle in his 200-year career. The idea of running from 12 small ships went against everything he believed about Dominion superiority. "No," he said firmly. "There must be an explanation for their technology. Perhaps they are using some kind of gravitational manipulation we don't understand." His chief science officer, Dr. Vexhar, approached the command chair. "Admiral, with respect, our sensors cannot detect any gravitational distortions around their ships. Whatever they are using appears to operate on principles we have never encountered." "Then we will learn those principles," Kethvar declared. "Prepare the ramming protocol. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will destroy them with mass and velocity." Commander Zextal looked shocked. "Sir, the ramming protocol will destroy our ship as well. Even if we succeed in damaging their vessel, we will all die. Better to die with honor than to retreat in shame," Kethvar replied. "Helm, set course for the human flagship, maximum speed." On the bridge of the human flagship, Lieutenant Hayes monitored the Dominion dreadnought as it began accelerating toward them. "Admiral, the large alien ship is moving directly toward us. Current speed suggests they intend to ram our vessel." Admiral Chen sighed deeply. "Oh dear. They really are the stubborn type, aren't they?" She activated the communication channel. "Admiral Kethvar, ramming my ship will only result in damage to your vessel. Please reconsider this course of action." "We will not be stopped by primitive humans," Kethvar replied angrily. "If our weapons cannot destroy you, our ship will." Admiral Chen shook her head sadly. "Lieutenant Hayes, would you mind gently stopping their ship before they damage themselves? We don't want any unnecessary injuries." "Of course, Admiral," Hayes replied. His fingers moved across his control panel with practiced ease. As the Dominion dreadnought approached at tremendous speed, the human flagship extended the same type of field that had moved it before, but instead of pushing the alien ship aside, the field simply brought it to a complete stop. The 15-kilometer-long vessel went from maximum acceleration to 0 velocity in an instant, without any visible impact or stress on its hull. Kethvar found himself thrown against his command chair as his ship suddenly stopped moving. Around the bridge, his officers struggled to understand what had happened. According to their instruments, they had been traveling at full speed one moment and sitting motionless the next. "How is this possible?" Dr. Vexhar asked in amazement. The physics involved in stopping our ship without destroying it. It should not be possible with any known technology. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system again. I'm sorry about the abrupt stop, Admiral. I know that must have been uncomfortable. But really, we cannot allow you to damage your ship in a futile gesture. Kethvar struggled to his feet, his mind reeling from what he had witnessed. Not only had the humans stopped his ship, but they had done it without causing any harm to his crew. Their technology was so advanced that they could use overwhelming force while showing perfect control and restraint. What are you? He asked again, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and awe. We're humans, Admiral Chen replied simply. Admiral, I think it's time we had a proper history lesson. Perhaps then you'll understand why your current approach is unlikely to succeed. On the view screen, Admiral Chen turned to one of her officers. Lieutenant Rodriguez, could you pull up the galactic diplomatic files? I think Admiral Kethvar needs to understand the broader situation. Of course, Admiral, Rodriguez replied. Which ones would you like me to display? Let's start with the basic statistics. How many civilizations have we encountered in the past century? C. Rodriguez checked his display. 47 different species or political entities have made contact with Earth, Admiral. Of those, 42 have established peaceful diplomatic relations with us. 3 are still in the negotiation process, and 2 chose to avoid further contact. Admiral Chen nodded. And how many of those initial contacts began with threats or demands for surrender? 38 of the 47, Admiral. I see. Admiral Kethvar, as you can hear, your approach is not particularly original. We've been dealing with galactic conquest attempts for quite some time now. Kethvar felt the last of his confidence crumbling. What happened to those civilizations? The ones that threatened you? They're all doing quite well, Chen replied cheerfully. Would you like to see some examples? Captain Morrison, could you demonstrate our standard peaceful resolution protocol? Happy to help, Admiral. Morrison's voice came through the channel. Admiral Kethvar, I'm going to show you something that should help clarify the situation. Please don't be alarmed. Unquote. The human frigate moved away from the Dominion fleet toward a large asteroid floating nearby. The rock was about 2 kilometers across, typical of the debris found in most star systems. This is just a simple demonstration, Morrison explained. We'll use minimal force to avoid any damage to your ships or crew. Captain Morrison's ship positioned itself near the asteroid and fired what appeared to be a single, small projectile. To Kethvar's sensors, it looked like the simplest possible kinetic weapon, just a piece of metal moving through space. The projectile struck the asteroid, and something impossible happened. The 2-kilometer-wide rock didn't explode or break apart. Instead, it began to unravel at a molecular level. The solid stone dissolved into individual atoms, which then collapsed into a brief point of intense gravity that swallowed the remaining debris before disappearing completely. Where the asteroid had existed moments before, there was now empty space. Not debris, not dust, not even radiation. The projectile had somehow convinced the matter to stop existing entirely. Dr. Vexhar stared at his instruments in horror. Admiral, the readings make no sense. That weapon didn't just destroy the asteroid. It violated several fundamental laws of physics. Matter cannot simply cease to exist like that. Actually, Captain Morrison's voice came through the channel. It can, if you understand quantum mechanics properly. We just convinced the atoms that they would be happier as energy. The conversion was quite clean, really. Admiral Chen's voice returned to the communication channel. I apologize for showing off. Admiral Kethvar. Captain Morrison gets a bit enthusiastic about his work, but I thought you should understand that our defensive capabilities are matched by our offensive ones. Kethvar found himself unable to speak. The casual destruction of an asteroid using impossible physics had shattered his understanding of what technology could accomplish. These humans had weapons that could rewrite reality itself. Now then, Admiral Chen continued in her calm, friendly voice. Let me explain the broader situation. Earth is not an isolated planet defended by 12 ships, Admiral. We are part of a much larger community. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from his station. Admiral, should I display the current diplomatic network? Please do, Chen replied. The view screen changed to show a three-dimensional map of local space. Hundreds of star systems appeared, connected by lines representing trade routes and communication channels. At the center of the network sat a small yellow star labeled Sol. Admiral Kethvar, Chen said. This is our local neighborhood. Each of those systems is home to a civilization that chose peaceful cooperation over conflict. Many of them started out much like your dominion, aggressive, conquest-minded, and convinced of their own superiority. Kethvar stared at the map. The network covered thousands of light-years and included star systems he recognized. Some of them had been powerful empires that had simply vanished from galactic communications decades ago. The hegemony of Vash, he whispered, seeing one familiar name on the map. They controlled 50 systems before they disappeared 30 years ago. Oh, they didn't disappear, Admiral Chen explained. They joined our community after a brief misunderstanding about territorial expansion. They make excellent musicians now. Their concerts are quite popular throughout the region. Commander Zexatal leaned over Kethvar's shoulder. Sir, if this map is accurate, these humans have been quietly managing this entire sector of the galaxy for decades. Admiral Chen heard him and nodded. Your commander is quite perceptive, Admiral. We've been here much longer than most civilizations realize. We prefer to work behind the scenes, helping species find peaceful solutions to their conflicts. Kethvar finally found his voice. How long have you been doing this? About a century now, Chen replied. We learned early on that the galaxy is a dangerous place if you don't take an active role in keeping the peace. So we decided to become the caretakers of our local region. Admiral Kethvar stared at the galactic map, showing hundreds of civilizations connected in a vast network of peaceful cooperation. His hands shook slightly as he began to understand the true scope of what he was facing. The humans weren't just defending one small planet. They were the hidden guardians of an entire region of space. A century, he repeated weakly. You've been managing galactic affairs for 100 years? More or less, Admiral Chen replied. We started small, just helping our immediate neighbors resolve conflicts peacefully. But word spread, and more civilizations asked for our assistance. Before we knew it, we had become the unofficial peacekeepers for this part of the galaxy. On Kethvar's bridge, his officers were studying the map with growing alarm. Commander Zextal pointed to several star systems. Admiral, look at these coordinates. The Iron Fist Consortium, the Stellar Dominance League, the Empire of Eternal Glory. All these civilizations that we thought had simply stopped expanding, or disappeared. They all chose cooperation over conquest, Admiral Chen explained, overhearing the conversation. It's amazing how much more civilizations can accomplish when they're not spending all their resources on warfare. Dr. Vexhar approached Kethvar's command chair with a data pad. Admiral, I've been analyzing the communication patterns shown on that map. The trade volume and technological exchange between these civilizations is enormous. They've created the most advanced and prosperous region in known space. Kethvar felt the weight of his situation settling on him like a heavy blanket. His mighty dominion, which had seemed so powerful just hours ago, was nothing compared to the quiet alliance these humans had built. What do you want from us? He asked Admiral Chen. What are your terms for surrender? Admiral Chen looked surprised. Surrender? Admiral, I think you misunderstand our intentions. We don't want you to surrender. We want you to understand that there's a better way to achieve your goals. She paused to organize her thoughts before continuing. Tell me, Admiral Kethvar, why does the Dominion conquer other civilizations? What do you hope to gain? Kethvar considered the question. Resources, technology, territorial expansion, security for our people. All perfectly reasonable goals, Chen agreed. But conquest is such an inefficient way to achieve them. Look at our network again. Every civilization in our community has access to the resources of hundreds of worlds. They share technology freely, which accelerates advancement for everyone. They have security through cooperation, rather than fear. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke from his station. Admiral, should I show them the economic data? The resource allocation statistics? Ever. Excellent idea, Chen replied. Admiral Kethvar, let me show you something interesting. The view screen changed to display economic data comparing different regions of the galaxy. The human-managed sector showed resource abundance, technological advancement, and quality of life indices that were far superior to any other region. The civilizations in our community have achieved more prosperity in the past 50 years than most empires manage in centuries of conquest, Admiral Chen explained. They've eliminated poverty, advanced their sciences, and created art and culture that enriches everyone's lives. Commander Zextal studied the data with amazement. Sir, their resource efficiency is incredible. They're achieving output levels that should be impossible with their population sizes. It's easy when everyone works together instead of fighting, Admiral Chen said. Competition drives innovation, but cooperation multiplies results. Kethvar felt his worldview continuing to crumble. Everything he had believed about power and dominance was being proven wrong by these gentle humans and their impossible statistics. But how do you maintain order? He asked. Without fear and control. How do you prevent rebellion and conflict? Admiral Chen smiled sadly. Admiral, do you see any rebellions on that map? Any civil wars or territorial disputes among our member civilizations? Kethvar studied the display. The entire network showed green indicators representing peaceful, stable societies. No conflicts at all, he admitted. When people are happy, healthy, and prosperous, they don't rebel, Chen explained. When they have access to resources and opportunities, they don't fight wars. When they feel heard and respected, they cooperate rather than resist. Dr. Vexhar approached his admiral again. Sir, if we could join this network, the Dominion could achieve all our goals without further warfare. Our people would have access to technologies and resources beyond our current imagination. Kethvar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. For the first time, he saw hope in their eyes instead of the grim determination of warriors. The prospect of peace and prosperity was more appealing than endless conquest. What would joining your network require? He asked slowly. Simple things, really, Admiral Chen replied. Peaceful resolution of conflicts, fair treatment of your citizens, willingness to share resources and knowledge with your neighbors, and a commitment to helping other civilizations when they need assistance. That's all. That's all. Oh, and you'd need to stop threatening to destroy planets. We're quite firm about that particular rule. Kethvar found himself laughing despite the situation. The sound was rusty from disuse, but genuine. You make it sound so easy. It is easy, Chen assured him. The difficult part is usually convincing aggressive civilizations to try a different approach. Most species assume that kindness equals weakness, so they keep fighting until they understand the reality of their situation. And if we refuse? Kethvar asked, though he already suspected the answer. Admiral Chen's expression became serious. Then you would join the small number of civilizations that chose isolation over cooperation. We would escort your fleet out of our territory and ensure that you don't threaten any of our member worlds. You would be free to continue your conquests elsewhere in the galaxy, but this region would be off limits. You would let us go? Of course, we're not conquerors, Admiral. We're gardeners. We nurture civilizations that want to grow, and we protect them from those that would do them harm. But we don't force anyone to join our community. Kethvar considered his options. He could attempt to fight his way out, though the futility of that approach had been thoroughly demonstrated. He could retreat and try to find easier targets elsewhere in the galaxy. Or he could accept these humans' offer and transform his empire into something entirely different. If we agreed to join, he said carefully, what would happen to our military? Our warriors. They would become protectors instead of conquerors, Admiral Chen replied, guardians of peace rather than agents of destruction. It's actually much more challenging work. Anyone can destroy things. But building and protecting civilization requires real skill. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez added, some of our best peacekeepers are former warriors from civilizations that joined our network. Their experience with conflict makes them excellent at preventing it. Well, Admiral Chen nodded. Admiral Kethvar, I'm going to offer you something that no one has ever offered the Dominion before. A choice. You can continue on your current path of conquest and face increasing resistance as you encounter more advanced civilizations. Or you can join us and help create something better than any empire in galactic history. Kethvar looked at his crew, then at the map showing the vast network of peaceful civilizations. Finally, he looked at Admiral Chen's kind but determined face. If we agreed to this, he said slowly, how would the transition work? We have excellent diplomatic staff to help with that process, Chen replied. Former military leaders from other civilizations who have been through the same transition. They understand the challenges and can guide you through the changes needed, and our people would truly be better off. Admiral, when was the last time you saw a Dominion citizen who was genuinely happy? Chen asked gently. Not afraid, not grimly determined, not proud of their military might, but simply happy to be alive? Kethvar thought about it and realized he couldn't remember such a person. Dominion society was built on discipline, conquest, and the constant threat of war. There was little room for simple happiness. I see your point, he admitted. Admiral Chen smiled warmly. Admiral Kethvar, on behalf of the Sol System Defense Fleet and our extended community, I would like to formally invite the Zephyrian Galactic Dominion to join our network as full members. Your first step would be a diplomatic mission to Earth, where you can meet with representatives from other civilizations that have made the same choice. Kethvar took a deep breath and made the most important decision of his long career. Admiral Chen, the Zephyrian Galactic Dominion accepts your invitation. As his words were transmitted throughout both fleets, Kethvar felt a strange sensation. For the first time in centuries, he felt hope instead of the endless pressure of maintaining power through force. Welcome to the neighborhood, Admiral, Chen said with genuine warmth. I think you're going to like it here. The Dominion fleet began receiving data packages containing star charts, diplomatic protocols, and introductions to their new neighbors. As Kethvar reviewed the information, he realized that what the humans called the neighborhood was actually the most advanced and peaceful civilization in galactic history, and somehow, 12 small ships and their quietly confident crews had built it all through the simple power of offering friendship instead of demanding surrender.